Still not quite there. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel and welcome to today's video where we're going to start working on this 1991 Pontiac Firebird Formula two-port injection engine automatic car, and we've got some problems to figure out. If you watched the last video, the first upload I did of it was actually just driving it home and beating on it a little bit, trying to see what's all wrong with it and what it feels like the car needs. Some people might have thought it wasn't cool to do it. In all honesty, if you do some burnouts in it and go drive it pretty hard, you're gonna find out what's wrong with it real quick instead of babying it and having something pop up every 6 months or whenever you're driving it, you know, intermittently. Trying to see what's gonna fail right off the bat. So far so good. Taking a look under the car, it just sat overnight. One little drop of fluid, kind of back by the transmission pan, and maybe one spot up there, right there, but otherwise pretty dry. First thing I'm gonna do, I'm gonna get this rod out of the way. I've got 2 new hood struts for it, so this is gonna be the first easy step I'm gonna do on it to make working on it a little bit easier. Now, after that, I wanna figure out the high idle issue, and it might also have something to do with why it stumbles or misfires a little bit on the highway, right around 1500 RPM. That's got something to do with it. I don't know yet. I'm gonna start getting these hood struts replaced so at least the hood will support itself, and then I'm gonna start trying to figure out this high idle problem. All right, well, there you go. I got the hood struts replaced. That's actually gonna be the first little project. Luckily, it actually came with new hood struts, which is kind of cool. So there's a free fix on it that, in my opinion, it's one of those things that it just could have been done. It takes 5 minutes, and when you go look at a vehicle like this, it presents so much better when you don't have to hold up the hood. But when I go and start the car, we do have a high idle issue, even when the car is up to temp. Now in the last video, I did go over that it appears that there's a new throttle position sensor and an idle air control motor already installed into this throttle body. So I would think it's going to be either that or the coolant temperature sensor, which the ECU actually uses to determine fueling on the car as soon as it's up to operating temperature. So it could be that also. It's a little bit soon to tell. I'm going to have to do some testing on it. But first things first, I'll probably go ahead and check the throttle position, make sure it's actually stopping and shutting all the way. I believe the gold standard, and this is info you can find on thirdgen.org, the voltage you should be able to measure at the throttle position sensor when it's closed is 0.54 volts DC. And I believe when you go to wide open throttle, or as far as the throttle pedal will actually actuate the throttle blades, it should go above 4 volts DC. There's a lot of back and forth on that. I was just reading about it all morning again to freshen my memory on it, so those are the numbers I'm throwing out. If it's something you can test, let me know below in the comments, but that's kind of what I'm working with. So first thing I'm going to do is check the throttle position, make sure that's good. I'll pull off the air intake, make sure everything looks good in there, we don't have a clogged filter, anything silly like that, and we'll go from there. Alright, here's a quick update. I got the throttle position sensor harness plug undone, and I'm actually looking at my Haynes manual that I still have. I've had it for about 10 years or 15 years now, and I still got it, and these come in handy for times like this. So, like I said, it was 0.54 volts is kind of what they talk about on the forums, which is right in line with what's said here. 0.47 to 0.61 volts between the A and B terminals of the throttle position sensor with the ignition on, but the engine not running. So I made a little harness here. It's a 3-wire connector harness, putting one end into the throttle position sensor and the other end into the harness, and I'm just going to measure between the 2 terminals and see what my idle voltage is with the throttle blade closed. So if it's high, I'd say there's a chance it could cause our high idle condition, but we're going to try and start troubleshooting things. Even if it's good, it's at least going to tell us that, okay, our throttle position sensor is probably adjusted incorrect. So we're going to start there. Being the guy already replaced it, we don't know that he adjusted it correctly. He might have just kind of put it in and let it buck, but we'll find out shortly here. Alright, so here's a better view of what I got going on. I finally grabbed some alligator clips because this is going to be real hard to do. You're going to need a T25 Torx bit to adjust the side of the throttle position sensor. I'll turn the key on. You should see the voltage go back up to what I said it was. See how it's 0.87 volts? As the throttle position opens, or the throttle travels, you can see our full voltage there, which is good. But right now it's set too high at idle, and what I need to do is adjust this, because when it moves, this is what actually moves on the other side of the throttle body to give us our full voltage reading. So after a little bit of troubleshooting off camera, it turns out that the 90 to 92 TPI cars actually have a non-adjustable throttle position sensor, which I didn't know. Previously I had an 87 that I've done this on, and it was slotted if I recall, so you could actually adjust it to that target idle, to that target voltage. I did replace it with the one that came in the vehicle as a spare. It must have been the original one. The voltage was lower. It was 0.70 volts DC, so quite a bit different. I'm actually gonna try and run it with this one and see what happens. So let's fire it up and see if we get a little bit better start. If anything, I might have to do an idle air control valve mode or relearn, but we'll have to be up to temp to do that. Okay, so I went for a quick drive, and changing the throttle position sensor doesn't seem to have done anything at all to the idle. The car is warm, and what I've found is that the idle is the same. So I'm going to try and relearn the idle air control motor. I'm going to give it a shot here without pulling it out. I might end up, I should probably pull it, I'm going to pull out the idle air control motor, get it all cleaned up with some throttle body cleaner again. I'll put it back in, and we will relearn the idle air control motor. This is pretty easy. So I'll get a big pair of pliers and twist this out real quick. Looks like it's brand new. Alright, so we're all back together. All I did was use large channel locks to get this on and off. It's regular right-hand thread, so just be careful, don't break the plastic. It'll be better if the engine's warm. So the process for doing this is I'm going to go in the car, turn the key on to the on position, but not run it. Now this motor should be all the way open. What we're going to do is unplug it. Just like that. We'll go back in the car and shut it off. He's out. Now what we're going to do is plug it back in. Just like so. And we should be good to go. We'll see if this changes our idle. Find out pretty quick if the idle will come down. Down here under the car, let me get a light on it. I've jumped the A and B connectors of the ALDL connector. This little red wire right here you can see on our diagnostic port. This is an ALDL connector. It's a precursor to OBD2 or scan tool friendly stuff, so I do not have an ALDL connector cable or laptop to use anything, so I jumped that. We're going to turn on the key, wait 30 seconds. So it's on, not running, obviously. I knocked a little punch out here. There's a T20 Torx connector. Now we're going to start and run it with the idle air control motor unplugged and set our idle to 450 RPM. Right now the fan is running. It's got to go a little lower. It's about 100 RPM high right now. I'm gonna say that's good. Just in case you guys are wondering, the 20 amp fuse that I'm disconnecting for the ECU is right down here. Let's see what we got here. It's a lot better. It was 1200 RPM all day before. Alright, so the idle is actually pretty good right now. I went on a quick little drive. Right now I'm in park. I'll go into reverse, or I'll throw it right down into drive, and the idle will drop down to where it's supposed to, but it really starts to bog, like it wants to die out. I gotta pedal it, and then it'll sit fine. So if I give it just a little more air by cracking the throttle when I do it, it's good. And then it idles right around 600 RPM. I mean, right now, my foot's not on the gas, I'm just holding the brake pedal. I'm wondering if I have like a bad idle air control motor, which is coincidentally what I'm messing with. I just wonder if it's not moving fast enough for it to actually catch up with it. Might be something I'm gonna look into replacing and stop chasing my tail on fixing a used one. Alright, so here's where we're at. I ended up going to AutoZone and I've pulled out the old idle air control motor that I suspect might be problematic. Not sure, but I'm running out of options. I did get a new one here. This is a brand new one, so we're gonna try a known, new, good one and see what this does. I'm gonna throw it in, and I'm gonna start I'll start the car up and see what we've got. It's running better and better. Like the more that I clean it, I'm gonna try and clean out these passages really, really good with like Q-tips and some more cleaner. But I'm hoping that this new one and cleaning it even better is gonna be the trick to make this thing good to go. Comes to a stop just fine now, but it's like once you're parked. And kind of I don't know if something gets heat soaked or what, but once you sit for a while and you go to take off in reverse or you go to drive, you know, from park, you might have trouble with it wanting to die out. And I just had the problem coming home again here at low speeds and wants to die. So I still feel like that is the issue, but we'll see. All right, so my 10th attempt at this, I put the new idle air control motor in there and snugged it down. Cleaned up the throttle body really well. I got a whole bunch of Q-tips. Cleaned out the passages inside of it and then used almost a whole can of throttle body cleaner on top of it. I've already reset the idle air control motor, so let's start it up and see if we have finally hit pay dirt. That might work. It actually did something that time. I'm gonna monkey around a little bit and I'll report back. Alright, so I've put a mile or so on the car after replacing it and getting the air intake duct all back together to the air filter. Idle's a touch high. I don't think I've got it quite right yet. We're getting closer, but the idle went up with the new idle air control motor, so I might have to do the reset again. So I'm going to drive here, show you. There's no, I didn't have to give it any gas to keep it running. Going to neutral, reverse. I think I'm zeroing in on what's going on. I might have to recalibrate this thing because it does have a new idle air control motor. Not exactly sure. Well, that's about the worst smell and view you could ever have out of a third gen, but I'm gonna go for a quick ride, burn this off, and see if we're gonna clear up the plenum and throttle body enough where it's gonna idle okay. I'll see if we can come to a stop here. It does seem like it's idling better, okay? I'll say that. Well, of course, until it dies, right? Still not quite there, evidently. Alright, so what I'm going to do now, the next thing I'm going to check and make sure is that my base timing is correct on the car. Third generation Camaros with TPI motors, whether it's an LB9 or L98, 305 or 350 is 6 degrees before top dead center, and L03 or throttle body injected is 0 degrees, I believe, the base timing. So this is without spark advance. So you wait on there, you should be able to kind of see it, I hope. There it is. See my timing marks. There's a 0, there's before, towards the top of the screen, and after in the bottom. We're going to watch our timing mark on the harmonic balancer, and it should be right at 6. You can add a little bit of ignition timing. People go up to about 10 degrees. You just have to watch for pre-detonation or spark knock. Sorry it's a little bit dark here. Just trying to give you good light down there. So this is what we're going to check next. It looks like we have newer plugs and wires on here. They are platinum plugs. I don't know that they need to be changed, to be honest. I don't think that that is the problem. Unless for some reason they didn't change plugs on this side and they're original or something insane. I really couldn't tell you, but what we do need to do is disconnect our Spark Advance plug, which is this tan with the black trace wire right here. That little plug I was messing with all day yesterday, but this is your Spark Advance for our distributor. It's controlled by the ECU, I believe. It's just a signal to advanced timing based on coolant temp and RPM, etc. So to set it, we're going to check base timing. I'm going to unplug this, hopefully without snapping the tab. Here, let me put the camera down. There you go. I've simply unplugged it. So now all we're going to measure with the engine running is the base timing on the engine. So I'll open the garage door so you can get a little bit more light. It's real windy out there. I had to shut this part of the video so I could explain what I'm doing, but I'm going to get my timing light set up and we're going to see if we are at 6. Hopefully that's where it's at. Right now what we're doing is just trying to eliminate what it could be as far as the problem goes. So if it's set at 6 degrees with its normal timing advance, it's perfect. So we can say, okay, well it's not the timing, what else is it? Alright, so I'm going to start it. No spark advance hooked up. Hopefully it starts and idles okay. You can do this cold. It'll just be, might be a little harder to start with no ignition advance. See our timing light's hooked up to the number 1 cylinder. This one here. You can get our timing light on it. There you go. We're about 4 degrees right now. It needs to be at least 2 more degrees advanced. So I'm going to turn it. You'll see that it's going to line up on the 6, one between 4 and 8. So what I did off camera was take apart the ignition coil mounting bracket and the little sensor that's down below there. Kind of loosen them out of the way so I can get all the way down there. All the way down there to that rusty bolt. And that is our distributor hold down bolt. So right now I've got the distributor loose. And what I'm going to do while it's idling, if you don't know, is just adjust it until I get to 6 degrees before top dead center. Resecure it, check it again, and then put everything back together and see if it runs any better. And hopefully you can get a pretty good view of it again. Try and juggle all this. There you go, it's right at 6. I did move it a little bit. Did a little bit before, got a timing light on it. There you go, we're about 4 degrees right now. It needs to be at least 2 more degrees advanced, so I'm going to turn it. We added 2 degrees of advance into it, is what we're doing. Before it was 2 degrees retarded. I'm sure many of us can identify with that. It's running really good. I don't know. I do have a service engine soon light on from having that ignition timing advance wire disconnected. It's idling right around 750, 700 where it should be. It should almost come up a little bit. Seems good. Got into gear a few times now, it feels fine. Drive gear holds, which it doesn't do. I'm gonna go put some miles on it and see what we got. It's idling right at 600 RPM where it's supposed to. May have been an ignition advance problem. Let's see. So this is probably getting a little bit of a repetitive place, but I've driven a few miles and we'll come to a stop here. Stop's perfect. Threw it in neutral, about 750, 700 RPM maybe. It is never driven this good, and everything seems to be perfect. I don't know. It does feel more sluggish, and I'm wondering if I don't have a timing advance problem. Yeah, look at that, it doesn't want to die at all. This thing's like perfect now. I'm just gonna put it in drive and go. It is way slower. Way slower. It's acting like it's not advancing. Let me make sure that my cable's hooked back up in the engine bay. You know, it was never fast, but that feels really bad. Okay. So, I had to do a little bit of reading. The car definitely felt as though it wasn't advancing the ignition timing, which it wasn't. Apparently, until you reset the ECU, which I did by pulling the ECU's 20 amp fuse up right behind the front driver's side headlight motor, it won't advance the ignition timing. So what I was feeling was 8 degrees straight across the curve. Now, alright, so I've got probably another 10 miles on the car after doing all this stuff, and the last time I dropped off on the video, and it seems to be running really good. When I come to a stop, and then I've messed with park and neutral and reverse and drive a whole bunch of times after driving it, it does still want to choke out and die, maybe, I don't know, 20% of the time. We are way better than it was yesterday, so